I do have a sponsor in today's video, but more on that shortly. I'm making this video because I think it's important for those of you who watch my channel to understand where I'm coming from regarding my thoughts on Dragon Age: The Veilguard. Now, with that said, I do like to focus my efforts on games that I'm excited for and enjoying for the most part, so this will likely be my goodbye to datv content. As an RPG fan, Dragon Age: The Veilguard is a pretty big disappointment to me in several ways, but most of this stems from a few core design decisions that I'd say infect the game in its entirety and are not easy to overlook or ignore. To me, Dragon Age has always been a deep, mature RPG franchise, and despite none of the games being perfect by any means, I have regarded this franchise as one of my favorite RPG franchises. I love RPGs. I love mature RPGs. I love many CRPGs. I love RPGs that have deep, rich systems, player agency, mature storylines with extensive world building and lore. And generally speaking, I love RPGs that respect player intelligence and offer some level of challenge, whether that be combat related with strategic challenge or perhaps eye-hand coordination challenge like you see in the Souls games, or non-combat related such as puzzles and just figuring out quests. Dragon Age: The Veilguard, at its core to me, feels like it's a generic adolescent action adventure with streamlined light RPG mechanics. And as someone who's not really a huge fan of the action adventure genre, I do like some games. And as someone who is not typically a fan of games with dialogue and systems that feel like they cater more to a child's mind rather than an adult, mature mind, I've been finding it really hard to enjoy my time in Dragon Age: The Veilguard. I find this really unfortunate because I feel like if BioWare had stuck to its roots with what made the studio and the DA franchise so popular in the first place, I think many of us would be celebrating this game together right now. But before we continue on, let's talk about something convenient and delicious, this video's sponsor, Factor. Factor makes meeting your nutrition goals easier than ever by delivering fresh, never frozen, dietitian-approved meals right to your doorstep. Seriously, grab the box, put them in your fridge, 2 minutes in the microwave, and you're eating good. With Factor, you get to choose from a weekly menu of 35 plus options, which includes popular categories such as Calorie Smart, Keto, Protein Plus, and Vegan and Veggie. Plus, there's a ton of snack options like breakfast, smoothies, which I'm drinking right here, juices, small bites, and more to keep you going throughout the busy day. The biggest benefit for myself with Factor is that it takes so much stress out of meal planning, whether that be the prep work, minimizing trips to crowded grocery stores, less cooking fatigue, and a very personal problem of mine: I have way less pots and pans to wash throughout the week when I have Factor in my fridge. All this combined makes it much more likely that I'm able to stick to my weekly routines, especially during busy weeks. So head to factor75.com or click the link below and use code 50wolfheart to get 50% off plus free shipping on your first Factor box. That's code 50wolfheart at factor75.com to get 50% off plus free shipping on your first box. Back to the video. In the past, like many others, the thought of a Dragon Age 4 was living rent-free in the back of my excited mind for many years. This franchise has an incredible foundation of mature lore and world building. I've even read several of the DA books. I was even so excited for the idea of Dragon Age 4 that I had plans to dedicate my entire channel to the game. Like, seriously, for hopefully as long as I possibly could do that with enjoyment. Unfortunately, though, this giant block of excitement started slowly being chipped away. First with BioWare's announcement that the game was going to be a multiplayer live service game, which to their credit, they did go back on that. Then we had the questionable layoffs of some BioWare devs that were core to the DA franchise, followed by BioWare's VP showing little remorse for said layoffs, seemingly even to this day. Then we finally get to the official reveal trailer, which was about as close to everyone uniting on an opinion about this game as we have ever been.
What about Darkspawn?
Followed by what I would say were non-adequate responses from BioWare to worried OG fans' questions about the Veilguard. But we're not done yet. This brings us all the way to review code distribution, as well as email ghosting and or lying to creators who had been previously in contact with EA. Now, none of that directly equates to game is bad or is going to be bad, but I do think it paints a picture, a bit of a broad picture here that shouldn't be ignored. But touching back on the initial multiplayer live service plans for this game, to me it's pretty clear that BioWare did not wipe the foundation of this live service skeleton, but instead decided to build upon it in a different way. Several systems in this game continue to give off what I would consider as a cheap-looking live service vibe. Art direction, for one, with the exception of some of the environments, which do actually look nice, but art direction includes the stylized Pixar-looking character models with little to no facial expressions, the very goofy creature designs, the what I would say is a mobile-esque or MMO-looking UI, which also ties into the game's particle effects, AoE indicators, and button prompts that pop up everywhere that you go, and also the game's loot and gear system. Find giant, unmissable shiny chest, click on shiny chest, get huge pop-ups with bright colors, an attempt to make you little kid excited, to then find out that most of the loot does not actually make you feel that good, as it's quite boring and repetitive overall, and duplicates of gear that you find cause an upgrade. Similar gear mechanic to what you'll find in many gacha games. Now, this art direction, UI, and repetitive loot and gear upgrade system can actually be fine for certain types of games, especially live service games. It's very common in that genre. But this is a single-player Dragon Age game, and unfortunately, much of this for myself turned out to be huge immersion breakers. I don't want to feel in any way, shape, or form like I'm playing a generic live service game in what is supposed to be this next major installment in the Dragon Age franchise. Looking back at the official reveal trailer that came out in June, that live service hero shooter vibe that many felt it was giving off turned out to be accurate in some regards as to what players should expect. This official reveal trailer was also foreshadowing for the game's overall tone, which many agree is a bit on the silly, goofy, cheerful, and childish side. Let's just call it the Pixar tone. As cool as I think Pixar is, very rarely do I find myself interested in the Pixar tone these days for any type of media consumption, especially when I'm thinking that I'm about to play a mature RPG. Wait, actually, now that I think of it, there was this recent Pixar film that I watched with my nieces and nephews, and it was called Princess Balara Lutara. It was pretty fun.
Okay. Try again. Deep breaths. There.
You gotta admit, this is so like Pixar Disney for sure. Like some of these scenes, especially with Balara.
Oh no!
This is straight up like a children's movie.
Just breaking things.
Oh wait, that's the scene from Dragon Age the Veilguard. Scenes like these with this type of vibe are all too common in this game, especially with companions.
Ugh.
Turn off camera shake. I'll look into that, bro. It was proving to be very difficult for myself to form any sort of bond with these companions or even take them seriously when everything just feels so inauthentic, scripted, and childish. And on top of that, some of the companion quest designs, you know, the quests that should be really important in the game, I would rather go back to the hinterlands and do fetch quests than some of these.
Let's get back to it. Practicing, I mean.
There's not much to practice here, Harding. We're just clicking one button every single time. Come on, let's go. This would be a lot more fun if I could become Harding and like cast her spell or something. That would be a little bit cooler. Yeah, that quest was horrible. I mean, that was a horrible quest, and it sucks because I was actually genuinely interested in that with Harding. We got like 2 seconds of a cutscene that talk about it, and the rest of the time I was just clicking on a menu to have her lift things. All right. Now, I will give some credit where credit is due, and some of the scenes, particularly involving the main story and speaking with Solus, although they could never truly be dark and mature due to the art direction, I did find myself looking forward to a few of these scenes, but unfortunately, the more immature scenes kind of feel like they take over the game. Now, Pixar-style entertainment certainly has its place, don't get me wrong. I don't personally think the DA franchise is the place for it, but this goes beyond just visual entertainment. Characters in this game talk to you, the mature adult player, like you are a literal child. Taking into account that this game is rated M for mature, children should not be the target audience, right? And also taking into account that you are playing as a character that is supposedly this really smart and capable hero and leader of the Veilguard. It makes no sense to me why BioWare thought that this was a good dialogue tone and style to go with for this M-rated game. You can't even call someone an idiot. That's apparently a bad word in this game.
Passes.
Oh, wow. Let's say this. Please listen to me, think again, and just listen, you idiot. That's about the meanest thing we've seen in this game, isn't it?
Are you kidding me?
I assure you, I am deadly serious.
We don't have time to play Who's the Greyest Warden.
Much of this, I have to say, starts to become a bit irritating over time, but also extremely immersion breaking. I'm not your kid, BioWare. This design philosophy of treating the player like they are a child, unfortunately, spread like a disease throughout most of the game's vitals. As someone who values real exploration in RPGs, the Veilguard seems to mostly be made up of linear zigzag lines, but hey, we're talking about the game feeling childish, and linearity does not always equate to being childish, right? Well, no, it certainly doesn't, but in Dragon Age, the Veilguard, a big part of navigating these mostly linear maps is through the completion of highly repetitive environmental puzzles designed for ages 3 to 6. The amount of times that you just pick up something in extremely obvious locations, items like these crystals, which you've already picked up 15 times before in that same exact mission, to then move it 20 feet to the right of you, it's actually baffling.
To move quick.
I want to finish this quest for you guys.
Please, someone. Is anyone out there?
This
Someone's
can't
in
be.
trouble.
This can't be serious,
go.
man. This can't be serious. Is this really what I'm doing right now? Now, I get that some players don't mind doing these mind-numbing puzzles. We all enjoy games in different ways. But for a player like myself, having these insanely repetitive, childish puzzles over and over and over and over and over and over and over again not only feels like an insult on player intelligence for a game that's rated M, but more importantly, it becomes incredibly redundant and boring. Instead of real exploration or puzzles that have some depth to them, which should give the player a sense of achievement upon completion and force players to think and truly engage with the world around them, in DATV, it's click on shiny thing, aim or place shiny thing at other shiny thing. You guys see what I just did for that quest right here? I literally walked up here. This shit better get, there better be some more variety behind some of this. I walked up here, shot this at that thing down here, went down here, went through the gate, grabbed that other thing, put it on that, ran to this back room, picked up a wisp, and dropped the wisp boss up, dropped the wisp off up here. And just when you think it can't possibly get any more mind-numbingly brain dead, your companions are constantly telling you what to do. I seriously wonder at times if the decision makers at BioWare genuinely think that everyone is just insanely stupid. Now, I get why some players don't mind doing these mind-numbing, easy puzzles in a game, but you really can't deny that these are puzzles that you would find in a children's game, and that is a big turnoff for many players like myself. Hogwarts Legacy had way harder puzzles than the Veilguard has, and Hogwarts Legacy is not only a teen game, but Harry Potter in general has always been sort of a kid's thing. Dragon Age has never been a kid's thing before, I guess until now, but it's weird to even say that because the game is labeled mature and it has sex in it. Let's now briefly talk about combat because it does make up a big portion of this game. And I did have some dumb fun with the combat in the beginning, but as I predicted in my hands-on experience, it got old fast. Tons of spongy, repetitive opponents, and there's really no need for strategy. I even closed my eyes and successfully completed an encounter. Here we go, closing my eyes. Completely closed right now.
For the old one! Attack! They're afraid!
We're clear.
Now that was on the game's normal difficulty mode, but I also want to let you all know that when I stopped streaming this game and was just playing offline, I hit a point to where it felt so repetitive and boring that for the first time in my life, I actually downed the difficulty to the game's easiest setting. I've never done that for a game ever my entire life of gaming until now, and it wasn't because it was too hard. Although initially I was interested and feeling appreciative that BioWare had included this tactical pause option, I actually thought BioWare was throwing a bone to OG Dragon Age fans or even CRPG fans with this. But unfortunately, you quickly realize that it's so dumbed down like so many other aspects of this game that it's boring, really boring in my opinion. And actually, now that I think of it, BioWare might even agree with me, as they apparently didn't want us using it too much, because when you use a single companion's ability, it puts all of that companion's abilities on a character-wide cooldown, sometimes for up to 30 to 40 seconds. You can't even like use any of their abilities. On top of that, using combos in this game, something that you would think may actually start to require some brain power, well, no, it absolutely does not. You click the two buttons that light up brighter than the other buttons and then watch some MMO mobile like particle effects splatter all over your screen. And oh yeah, did I mention that companions cannot die in this game? Literally cannot die. They have infinite health. Who in their right mind ever thought that party-based RPG lovers would want this? Why is this a core design of the companions that cannot be toggled on or off? It blows my mind. Infinite health companions ruined any care that I might have had for my companions in combat, which is already at an all-time low, as they don't really matter that much anyways.
Good to go.
Nor can they even be utilized that often due to this character-wide cooldown system. I'm not gonna lie, it actually would have been nice to be able to take direct control of companions in this game, something that you could do in every previous Dragon Age game, as I feel like that would have broken up some of the repetitive nature of these combat encounters, but BioWare says the game is too fast-paced to allow that mechanic, I guess. On a side note, all classes and subclasses pretty much look like mages in combat at first glance, with all the particle effects and colors and magical things flying around. Magic is really no longer unique and special. No one class is really ever needed over another, nor is party composition that important. The game almost doesn't let you make mistakes. Now, speaking of not needing one class over another, this also ties into companion utility abilities, which you can access all of these abilities, whether your companion's with you or not, through the use of your magical dagger in the tactical pause menu. Now, this isn't like a huge complaint, but once again, it's just another indicator of the design of this game moving away from being a deep, nuanced RPG. Imagine in Baldur's Gate 3 if you could just access every utility spell and or ability or companion that may specialize in a certain ability just by clicking a menu button. That would take away the importance of choice having meaning. It would take away the importance of companions being unique and special, something that many RPG players like myself greatly value. So many of the core design decisions in this game, I would say, are antithetical to what made mature party-based RPGs so great and unique. Now, I did enjoy some things in this game, mainly pertaining to the main story, and I do applaud BioWare for including multiple endings. I'm not going to do any spoilers here, but some of which are pretty hard-hitting. I also enjoyed some of the environments, but this was mostly from a visual perspective, as unfortunately there was really not a ton to interact with in most of the environments outside of the redundant puzzles. Mostly everything interesting is just background props for looks. You can't even interact with the companions at will anymore in the game's central hub area called the Lighthouse, and that might be a minor complaint to some, but this just to me felt so not Dragon Age. Dragon Age, the Veilguard, all around has been a disappointment for myself, coming from the perspective of someone who sees an insane amount of potential in the DA franchise and was expecting and hoping for much more of a deep, mature, at least somewhat complex RPG, rather than what I feel we got, which is this much more streamlined, casual, generic feeling action adventure with some light RPG mechanics. It genuinely saddens me a bit seeing RPG franchises go in this direction, as they leave behind so many of the passionate fans who were the life force of said franchise, in an attempt to pull in a much wider but less invested, much more casual audience. Now, both types of audiences, of course, deserve games, and sure, there's plenty of overlap between the two, but I do feel like this new direction that BioWare has taken will unfortunately come at the cost of the soul of the Dragon Age franchise, which I don't think is really good for anyone in the long run. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll catch you on the next one.